Among the many stories Allah has revealed in the Quran, there is one that has fascinated scholars, believers, and seekers of truth for centuries: the story of Ashab-e-Kahf, the people of the cave. This story, found in Surah Al-Kahf, verses 9-26, is not merely a tale from the past. It is a living reminder of faith, sacrifice, divine protection, and the certainty of resurrection. It is the story of a handful of young men who chose faith over fear, truth over tyranny, and Allah's mercy over the fleeting comforts of this world. Long ago, in a city known as Ephesus or Ufsus, people lived under the oppressive rule of a tyrant king named Daqyanus. He was powerful, arrogant, and merciless. His rule was marked by idol worship and disbelief in Allah. He commanded his people to abandon the worship of the one true God and instead bow to false deities and images he had set up. Anyone who refused was punished brutally. Some were imprisoned, others executed. In such an atmosphere of fear, the hearts of most people became weak. They chose silence over truth, compromise over sacrifice. But not everyone. Among the noble and respected families of the city, there were 7 young men. Their names are not preserved with certainty in the Quran, but classical sources and tafsir works often mention them as Yamlika, Mixalina, Mashalina, Martunus, Birunus, Dimawanus, and Kitmia, the faithful dog. These youths were different from their people. Though young, they had wisdom beyond their years. Though surrounded by idolatry, their hearts shone with the light of Tawheed, the belief in Allah's oneness. They refused to bow to false gods. Their tongues declared the truth with courage. Our Lord is the Lord of the heavens and the earth. We shall never call upon any god besides him. Qur'an 18:14. This declaration was dangerous. It was not just an act of worship. It was rebellion against the king's authority. When news of their defiance reached Daqyanus, his rage knew no bounds. He ordered them to be brought before him. The youths stood firm in front of the throne, unshaken by his power. They reminded him that Allah alone was the creator, sustainer, and true king. The king, enraged at their defiance, gave them a choice: renounce their faith or face death. But the young men knew that life without faith was no life at all. They chose the path of sacrifice. Fearing execution, the youths left their families, their homes, and their city behind. They did not flee to seek comfort, but to preserve their faith. Climbing the rocky paths of a mountain, they found a cave, dark, hidden, and silent. To others, it may have seemed a desolate place, but to them, it was a sanctuary of faith. Inside, their voices rose in humble dua. Our Lord, grant us mercy from yourself and guide us in our affair rightly. Surah Kahf, verse 10. Allah responded to their sincerity in a way that shook history. So we drew a veil over their ears in the cave for a number of years. Surah Kahf, verse 11. The companions fell into a deep, peaceful sleep. It was not ordinary sleep, but a miraculous state of preservation. The Quran describes how Allah protected them. The sun shifted its rays so they would not be scorched. Their bodies were turned from side to side so they would not decay. Their dog Kitmia stretched his paws at the entrance, keeping watch. Anyone who tried to approach felt an overwhelming sense of fear and turned away. Outside, the tyrant king discovered their hiding place. In his arrogance, he ordered the cave to be sealed with a wall, thinking he had trapped them to die within. But Allah, the best of planners, had decreed otherwise. Time marched on. The king died. His kingdom collapsed. New rulers rose and fell. Generations came and went. But inside the cave, the young men slept on, preserved by Allah's command. The Quran says, "And you would think them awake, though they were asleep, and we turned them to the right and to the left, while their dog stretched his forelegs at the entrance." Quran Surah Kahf, verse 18. They remained in this miraculous state for 309 years, as Allah willed. Centuries later, a new ruler rose, King Badrus. Unlike Daqyanus, he was just and kind. He believed in Allah and ruled with fairness. But among his people, debates arose. Some denied the reality of resurrection. They questioned, can Allah really bring the dead back to life? This troubled the king deeply. He withdrew into seclusion, raised his hands, and prayed, "O Allah, show us a sign so that my people believe in resurrection and the day of judgment." Allah answered his prayer through the companions of the cave. After more than 3 centuries, the young men stirred. Their eyes opened, their bodies were strong, their faith unshaken. To them, it felt like only a night had passed. They greeted each other with salam and performed salah. Hungry, they decided to send Yamlika into the city to buy food. He carried with him a silver coin, unaware that this coin had long vanished from circulation. When Yamlika entered the city, he was confused. The idols were gone. The streets were different. He saw people openly worshipping Allah. Approaching a bakery, he handed over his old coin. The shopkeeper stared in astonishment. The coin bore the stamp of a king who had died centuries earlier. Word spread quickly. Some thought he had discovered a hidden treasure. Others believed a mystery had unfolded. He was taken to the ruler. In front of King Bedrus, Yamlika explained his story. At first, the king and his nobles found it unbelievable. But when Yamlika mentioned Daqyanus, the king realized this man had truly come from another time. The king and a group of people rushed to the cave. There they met the rest of the companions. The companions then understood why Allah had awakened them, not for their own sake, but as a living proof of resurrection. Just as Allah had preserved and revived them after centuries, He would one day revive all of humanity. The Qur'an says, "And thus we made their case known, so that they would know that the promise of Allah is true, and that the hour there is no doubt about it." Qur'an Surah Kahf, verse 21. Shortly after, Allah caused them to pass away peacefully once more. The king and his people honored them. At the entrance of the cave, a masjid was built so that people could remember their story. From that day until now, their tale has been told and retold as a source of inspiration, faith, and a reminder of Allah's power. The story of the people of the cave carries timeless lessons. The young men abandoned their homes, families, and wealth for the sake of their belief in Allah. This shows that true Iman often demands courage and sacrifice. They had no weapons, no armies, and no walls to protect them, yet Allah preserved them in ways unimaginable. Their awakening after centuries is a clear proof that just as Allah revived them, He can and will revive all of mankind on the day of judgment. They were a group of believers who strengthened each other's faith. Even their dog, Kitmir, was honored and mentioned in the Qur'an, showing the blessing of keeping righteous company. People argued about how many they were and how long they slept. The Qur'an reminds us, "Say Allah knows best how long they remained. To Him belongs the unseen of the heavens and the earth." Qur'an Surah Kahf, verse 26. And so, dear brothers and sisters, the story of the people of the cave, Ashab-e-Kahf, remains one of the most powerful reminders in the Qur'an. It is not merely a tale of young men who sought refuge from a tyrant. It is a timeless lesson that faith is worth more than life itself, and that Allah never abandons those who put their trust in Him. If this story touched your heart, don't forget to share it so others can also be reminded of Allah's power and mercy. And if you wish to hear more such stories from the Qur'an and Sunnah, subscribe to the channel and stay connected. Thanks for watching.